Владата на Република Албанија, почитувани колеги во Владата на Република Северна Македонија. Добре дојдовте.
Colleagues in the government of the Republic of North Macedonia, I welcome you to the initial session of the government of the Republic of North Macedonia.
And we're talking about the future and what we can do plus in order to develop our two countries, as well as our friendship and good neighborliness, and to develop the region.
We have communicated with Eddie so often, and we have a very close cooperation between our ministries and our institutions, our two countries, that I have a feeling that we're here all home today. It is a very good feeling because we remember that not so far away the whole Balkan was a hostage to retrograde policies. This was a vision to see the whole region as a whole, the countries as part of this whole, and to act together towards joint European future. The leaders in our countries are looking forward towards tomorrow. It is more than clear that together we are more than enough. In few years, with a sincere political will, we have managed to achieve more than we could have imagined. The bilateral relations between our two countries have never been better. We can say that we are an example how two neighboring countries can and should cooperate. We are overcoming the risks from the global crisis between ourselves and on a global level. Within the open Balkans, we cooperate in the field of safety and security, and as partners of NATO and the USA. Dear Eddie, some did not believe, but together we have stepped towards the European integration. On the 19th of July, we both, and on the behalf of our citizens and our countries, we heard the words, "We mark the negotiations as opened," uttered by the Czech foreign minister. Your support, your personal support at the political table those days in Brussels is invaluable, and I will forever remember and appreciate it. As they say, friends are known in trouble. And you, Eddie, your dear colleagues from Albania, have shown true and sincere friendship and unequivocable support to the European road, but also during our membership in NATO. We have the same objective, full membership of both North Macedonia and Albania in the EU. As progressive prime ministers and progressive governments, we have put in a lot of effort, and we have shown that progress can only be made through cooperation. Today, when unexpectedly for the 21st century we faced a war on the European continent, we can best perceive the value of the interstate and regional cooperation that we have established and we have been successfully developing for several years. Our both countries are a real example of how good neighborly relations are built. In order to have connectivity, infrastructure is needed, but above all, a good understanding is needed. If we understand each other well, if we respect each other, we have already laid solid pillars for the highways and railways that physically connect our countries and people. Prime Minister Rama and I, we both know that if something is going tough, we are going to the right track. This has established stronger connections between North Macedonia and Albania, and we are together on the European road nowadays. The Republic of North Macedonia has placed itself clearly and 100% in line with the EU's foreign policy regarding the war in Ukraine. I know that the Republic of Albania did the same. Together we stand on the side of world peace and maintain stability in the region. It is our common interest to prevent attempts by third parties for their own purposes to drag our countries and the entire Western Balkans into undesirable scenarios that will threaten the democratic gains that we have worked so long to resolve, scenarios that would block the opportunities for the economic development of the states and drag the region into new isolations and tensions that the Balkans have already barely overcome. Both our countries, through joint work on specific solutions, are investing in a secure future for the entire Balkan regions, and this is already clear to everybody. As democratic governments, we know that Euro-Atlantic integrations are of strategic interest for stability and security, for the economy and the standard of living of the entire Western Balkans. And the EU finally realized that it is in strategic and security interest that the Western Balkans can be and will be part of Europe. That the countries of the Western Balkans have democratic progressive leadership, and now is the moment to ensure the rounding of the European family. We must not miss this momentum of extended hands from our partners and friends. And we, the EU, have fulfilled all our promises so far and will continue to do so. The opening of negotiations and the start of screening is a huge success for all of us. The process has finally started, and now, with a fully protected identity and national interests recognized and confirmed by Europe, we are progressing in reforms to ensure European standards and principles. For us, for the Macedonian identity and the Macedonian language, recognition from Europe was very important. The negotiations were painful and difficult, but we managed to keep our positions and achieve what we fought for, which is to preserve the Macedonian language and raise it to the same level as the other languages of the EU. The Macedonian identity will continue to develop as part of the complex European identity. Proof of our effort and the fulfillment of the promise to the citizens was the signing of the agreement with Frontex as the first such agreement that we have signed together with all the other 27 member countries in the Macedonian language without any additions or footnotes. This, together with the recognition that we are a successful, multi-ethnic, functional democracy of equal citizens, Macedonians, Albanians, Turks, Serbs, Vlachs, Roma, Bosniaks, and all others who live here, a state that essentially contributes to peace and stability, opens up space for us to approach the other necessary steps. They will certainly follow in the Parliament in order to complete the accession negotiations with the EU in a dynamic process. Now everything is in our hands. I expect the deputies to show responsibility in the Parliament as well in order to continue moving quickly towards the EU. As we started the negotiations together, North Macedonia and Albania have the opportunity to finish the negotiations together. With EU membership, we will ensure quality life for our citizens according to the European standards, and our young people will live in Europe, but in their own country, in their native country, at home. The Republic of North Macedonia is resolutely developing into a society for all, with equal rights and responsibility for all citizens, and our commitment to a civil state has been inscribed in the first constitution since the independence of Macedonia at that time. We have multi-ethnic institutions, parliament, government, municipalities. Today, Republic of North Macedonia is recognized as a successful model of European retail. And just as we build bridges at home, we also build bridges with our neighbors, with Europe, and with the world. And that is our advantage. Policies of good understanding are our advantage. And like everything before, with this wise, responsible, and reasonable policies that we carry, which have the support of the majority of citizens in the country, I believe that we can also achieve EU membership by 2030. Of course, until then, the two neighboring countries can help each other a lot in economic development. This second intergovernmental session in Skopje, after the first one in Pogradec, shows that we can talk about the things and we can do them. We are promoting cooperation, especially during the global economic and energy crisis, with serious challenges in providing electricity and food in our countries. This cooperation is of great importance. We, in our country, have so far provided electricity for households and small consumers from domestic production. Energy facilities have increased production and are operating at full stream. ESM not only increases production by 25%, but also exceeds the plans. That is why it is possible to provide 80% subsidized electricity for all our households in the country and for over 72,000 companies, small consumers who employ most of the workers in the country. With good planning and timely moves, we secured preferential prices for electricity for primary and secondary schools, and as well as for the public enterprises in the field of water supply and sewage disposal. We have provided cheaper electricity for food companies, after which we exceeded the prices of final products to decrease by at least 10%. The state has also taken over the operation of the heating plants, and we will ensure reliable, stable, and continuous deliverable of thermal energy. We started the energy transformation with a well-defined vision. We are investing in the industries of the future, which, in addition to providing us with energy independence, will also open to opportunities for more and better paid jobs for the citizens. This crisis is also an opportunity for development, for innovation, an opportunity to turn the country into a hub of green energy, which, with a good plan and strategy, can supply the region and the continent with energy obtained from the warm Macedonian sun. In addition to these ambitious goals that we have set for energy transformation so far, we have been actively and promptly dealing with the economic crisis through packages of anti-crisis measures worth over 760 million euros to support citizens and the liquidity of companies. At the same time, with the intervention fund of 4 million euros, we helped the production of strategic agricultural crops and also introduced a new subsidy model with one of the primary goals of stimulating domestic food production. All these measures and activities that we are undertaking are producing the planned results. And these efforts were recognized recently. The President of the European Commission, von der Leyen, announced here in Skopje that the EU is allocating an amount of 80 million euros in the first tranche, which will be used for budget support. Europe shows solidarity with the countries of the Western Balkans, which is good and welcome. However, regional cooperation is of great importance. As part of our commitment to providing stable and sustainable sources of energy, one of the important memorandums that we are going to sign today is precisely the Memorandum of Cooperation in the Energy Sector. Given the importance of connectivity in the development of the economy, we will also sign a Memorandum of Understanding for the development of road connectivity between the two countries. There is a common view that efforts should be made to build and complete road infrastructure in the section of Road Corridor 8 that will strengthen economic and trade relations between the two countries. This memorandum declares the common will to work together to achieve the goal, connecting the entire Corridor 8 by 2030. Today we will sign other memorandums. In many areas we will all have the opportunity to hear and see about them a little later. But what I would like to emphasize here, which is another proof of our good cooperation and mutual trust, is the agreement for the return of illegally exported icons from our country, for which, after the completion of the criminal proceedings in Albania, through today's agreement, we will start a procedure for physical return of these to the country. And all this is just the materialization of the excellent cooperation between the states and between the ministries of culture. At the first intergovernmental session, many new perspectives were opened for the advancement of mutual cooperation. We supplemented and strengthened the same with all the activities so far within the framework of the Open Balkans and the Berlin process. The goal is regional development and faster integration to the single European market and the EU. All this, both as a country as a region, will make us far more attractive to foreign investors, which will ultimately mean new factories, new well-paid jobs, which means that our young people will stay here and at home to work, to build the future and further develop what we are starting today. The cooperation between our two countries is a reflection of the commitment to develop our countries according to the European values of mutual respect, where the mutual concern for the Albanians in North Macedonia and for the Macedonians in Albania as links that connect and bring us together plays an important role. As once I stated before, getting closer is the beginning, staying together is progress, and cooperation is success. And if we're guided by this, we're well on our way to success, because together we are on the right European path. Dear Prime Minister Rama, respected ministers from the government of Albania, and once again, welcome to the government of the Republic of North Macedonia. I will stop here and leave the stage to the Prime Minister of Republic of Albania, Edi Rama.
Dy qeverive në rajonin ton, në vendet tona. Lufta e Vladimir Putinit në Ukrainë godet, shkatron, hap plag dhe të bon njerëz nga vendi i tyre në atë zonë, por nga ana tjetër është e provokuar pikërisht për të gjunjëzuar perëndimin, për të gjunjëzuar bashkësinë euroatlantike, për të gjunjëzuar të gjitha vendet në perëndim të Rusisë, pjesë e cilëve jemi edhe ne, Shqipëria dhe Maqedonia e Veriut. Lufta në vendet tona nuk ka ardhur me bomba, as me shkatrime fizike, as me dëbime njerëzish nga shtëpitë e tyre, por me çmimet stratosferike të energjisë elektrike në tregjet ndërkombëtare, si edhe me inflacionin e saj, inflacionin e luftës, i cili ka vënë në vështirësi të gjitha vendet, që nga më të pasurat deri tek ato më pak të pasura, siç jemi edhe ne, Shqipëria dhe Maqedonia e Veriut. E në këtë kontekst është gjithmonë më e qartë që s'ka asnjë rrugë tjetër përballimi me sfidat e kësaj kohe dhe me vështirësitë të iskajshme që kjo kohë ka sjellë për botën, që nga ndryshimet klimatike deri te luftrat konvencionale, përveç bashkëpunimit.
Except for the cooperation, creation of bigger new synergies, and adaptation with a condition, a situation where all of us in the region are very small, to be on each other's backs, but we have a lot to do with each other. On the other hand, we are meeting at this second intergovernmental session of the governments in a different context from the aspect of our common efforts to be members of the big European family. Finally, we have overcome the big gap and the torture in between, and we are coming already to face and to start the negotiations and to face the constant refusal for starting the negotiations by the EU. Today, our countries have started the negotiation process, and in fact, we have made a great step forward. On the 6th of December in Tirana, there will be a summit of the European Union with Western Balkans, and we will be there together. All the wishes, all the problems, and our resources, what remains for us to become part of the European family, together with the other members, we are going to make a step forwards, and we are going to go beyond the war that is happening at the moment, and we are going towards the road of inclusion into the EU, in the efforts of the EU to organize to find a solution for the big energy prices that we're facing and the overall crisis that we're facing. On the other hand, we need to make a joint plan, a plan that is going to give us an opportunity to see further than this phase that is very difficult, dark, and we are not able to overcome it at the moment. We should not expect the war to end in order to plan for the future. And in this aspect, I would say that Albania and North Macedonia had preparations trying to project the future, not individually only as countries, but collectively as countries from the same geographical and geopolitical region, from the aspect of Western Balkans as our region and as the European Union as our destination. I believe that Open Balkan gave us new possibilities, new opportunities to see further than yesterday in order to understand how we can overcome the today and at the same time to project future that is going to increase to the maximum the capabilities and the capacities of our countries to get a bigger space than our geographical space at the moment. We have seen the results of the agreements made within the Open Balkan, and we have continued and we will continue to be supporters of the Belgian process, having the opportunity to see the promises as part of a cooperation between the two countries and without an exclusion towards each other. I'm not going to talk much about the agreements that the president of the government has mentioned before, and we are going to have the opportunity to discuss them further on. And we are going to inform the public when we are going to sign the new agreements. I would like once again to stress that the time has come to project more with better strength and with bigger ambition after the war period and to get the maximum today, on time. The capability to create a total synergy into the European community. Without discussion, the support provided by the EU for our budgets from the aspect of facing the crisis of the energy price is a good news, but if we have in mind that these funds are reallocation of the IPA funds for our countries, then we need to be even more ambitious and to seek for more from the European community, and we should not be satisfied or happy with this step, which is a big step if we compare this to the moments, the tragical moments of the pandemic, what we faced during the pandemic when we were left to ourselves, isolated in the middle of Europe from the possibility to get the vaccines in the first phase. But on the other hand, this is a step, half step, I would say, and we need to see not only what we can get, but what we can give as well. For the community of the European countries and Europe as a whole. Finally, I would like to thank first to the Deputy Prime Minister of your government, Artan Grubi, who is leading this process together with us, and I believe he's the best Albanian between the Macedonians and the best Macedonian between the Albanians. Thus, for us, it is a pleasure and a privilege to have him on an everyday level of work and cooperation. We trust him so much, just like all his colleagues trust him, and it was my duty to say this on behalf of my whole team, my delegation, because in the preparatory period for this session, we were in a close cooperation, we were working closely. I would like to thank all of you for the dedication, because this is of a great strategic interest of both our countries to have relations that are as strong as possible, as brotherly as possible, and not to have any bad times between ourselves at any time, since we are two connected pods that cannot function without the other one, and we need to work together for the stability of our countries, both our countries, and at the same time for absolute harmony between the two people, between the Albanians and the Macedonians. Thank you so much once again for your for hosting us here today. I'm looking forward to having the strength and the patience to achieve the results in our attempt, this constructive attempt, and our efforts that we're doing together. Please go to the media center. We will have the working part of the session. Thank you, Eddie. After my address and the address of the Prime Minister of Albania, we concluded that our opinion for the cooperation between the two countries and the cooperation in the region and our path towards the European Union are identical, and only through joint cooperation we can do this in a faster and easier way. Now I would like to give the floor to the first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Political System and Community Relations, Artan Grubi. Artan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President. Welcome for everyone. I will speak in Albanian. I also want to welcome you, to warmly welcome you, Prime Minister Rama, to all the ministers from the Albanian government, to thank those who assisted and contributed to the organization of the intergovernmental session between the governments of North Macedonia and Albania. 114 years ago, on this very day, delegates from all parts of places where Albanian is spoken gathered for the Congress in Bitola to unify the Albanian language. On the 22nd of November, this Congress completed its work, and this is one of the greatest achievements of the Albanian people, including here the Prison League and the independence. Where were we yesterday and where are we today? Unified, codified language that today is official language, and you personally, President of the government, have played exceptional role in all these achievements in North Macedonia, not only for the Albanians but for all the communities, from the Ohrid Framework Agreement until the achievement of the full-fledged membership in the EU, especially since we are a country that negotiates with the EU. The Albanian language is an official language. It is spoken in the assembly, in the government. Our flag is an official flag. We have 3 universities in Albanian language and all levels of education, starting from kindergartens to university. Albanian is in official use. We have 21% of representation of the Albanians, and this is not a taboo, and it would not be a taboo if tomorrow we have an Albanian Prime Minister in North Macedonia. We have not one single item, issue, or problem with Albania. On the contrary, we have particularly good brotherly, bilateral, and regional connections and cooperation. And regarding the Berlin process and the Open Balkan Initiative, where you, Prime Ministers, as main protagonists, I believe you will succeed in overcoming all misunderstandings from the past. Without any further ado, I would like to propose 3 additional conclusions from this session, hoping that they will be adopted and harmonized regarding 3 issues that we did not manage to harmonize by yesterday: opening a new border crossing, establishing joint commission of experts that will work on the new border crossing between Albania and North Macedonia, and will determine the features for all parts of the roads required for this connection, and all issues related to this international border crossing and issues that are of joint interest. This item refers for the highway connection between our 2 countries, and we'll start working on this in February. We have signed agreements with the companies. It is a memorandum on cooperation. We adopted the law in the government, and it is expected to sign an agreement for starting the construction of the 2nd section of the highway from Skopje to Tjafasan. And of course, this will be of great benefit for the citizens of both countries. I propose that the Commission is headed by Ministry of the Interior, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Transport and Communications, Customs Administration, and of course the Commission will work following the decisions made by both governments. This is the first conclusion that I am proposing, and the second one is regarding the railway connection Skopje-Drač between both our countries. Both governments have the obligation to undertake the obligations for railway infrastructure of Corridor 8. We should modernize the existing line from Kumanovo, Skopje, Kičevo, and to complete the section from Kičevo to the border with Albania of about 63 kilometers, and from Kumanovo to Bulgaria in a length of 109 kilometers. I believe that we are in the process of reconstruction of the current railway line Tirana-Durrës for a new section to the Mother Teresa Airport, and of course for improvement and enhancement of the section to Podgradec. And with this conclusion, we will assign the Ministries of Transport and Communications and other institutions to cooperate in the preparation for cooperation and providing financial instruments from international institutions, connections between Skopje and Durrës, between North Macedonia and Albania, agreement that will be signed on a joint session of the governments that will take place in Albania. And the third conclusion, idea of Prime Minister Rama referring to the issue through the Ministries of Finance and Transport and other ministries within 3 months to complete the feasibility study for construction of intermodal part in Struga for the cattle that comes from Durrës to be accommodated here, and of course for the goods that come from Durrës to be accommodated here. And this will be the beginning of the signing of agreement between the two countries, where we will express our will for cooperation. And of course, I would like to extend my appreciation to Prime Minister Rama, who enabled us access to sea in the port in Durrës, and only in this way will we develop friendly relations and cooperation between our two countries. Thank you. Thank you, Artan. Now the Deputy President proposed 3 extremely important conclusions that refer to the infrastructural and economic connectivity of the countries. I would like to put these 3 conclusions for adoption so that they can be put in function immediately as they were proposed. So who's opposing to these 3 proposals? Having in mind that no one is opposing these conclusions, I can conclude that they have been adopted and assign the parties to start working on these 3 conclusions. Now I would like to give the floor to Prime Minister Rama so that he can call the First Minister from the Albanian government to address us. Thank you, Prime Minister Dimitar, and appreciation for the Deputy President of the government. Now I would like to invite the Minister of Energy and Deputy Prime Minister in the government of Albania to take the floor. Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister. Distinguished Prime Minister Kovacevski, distinguished ministers, something that should be mentioned is the fact that the synergy between our two countries is very important part for the enhancement of our shared voice in the EU. That is why I want to thank Krishnik Bekteshi, my ally in all our fights that we have in the EU. As countries from the Western Balkans, we have done a lot referring to our meetings in Europe. We showed that we are a true, reliable partner of the European Union as countries that face all these problems and challenges due to the energy war and Putin's aggression in Ukraine. Also, I would like to say that it has been very difficult for all of us, especially for both of us, because we sat on the same table. And while sitting on these tables, the Western Balkan countries' opinions was not taken into consideration. And we knew that we had to assist each other. And what Prime Minister Rama said the funds that we have at our disposals are funds allocated in order to provide financial assistance to our countries, but also to all the countries in the Balkan, having in mind that in the beginning of 2023, we will have a new package for new projects that we should use. And I believe that Krishnik and I will find some shared perspective in order to make new achievements. Because if we do not cooperate, if our future strategies are not well studied, and they may impact the development of the economy and energy of both countries, and also to impact the overall development, both economically and in energy terms. The geopolitical situation with the aggression in Ukraine, the growth of prices, the growth of prices in electricity, no one in Europe was prepared for energy security, and now the citizens should be given the possibility to feel safer. Today we're not speaking of prices, but of securing energy that will serve for economical development, energy that will meet the basic needs of our two countries, having in mind that we are all exposed. Albania is not independent from the Russian gas, but I think that the prices of the gas are too high. So we have an agreement that we'll sign today, and that this is an agreement regarding the cooperation in the energy sector between Albania and North Macedonia. One of the most significant agreements that we'll sign, because it is not simple to resolve such energy crisis related to the economy. We're speaking of regional security and safety for all countries from the Western Balkans. This agreement refers, I will speak in more detail, having in mind the situation in Albania. Several years ago, we started a project for diversification of our energy sources, because Republic of Albania produces 100% of the energy from its own resources. And having in mind the situation with the rainfall and photovoltaics, and the problems in the North Sea, where all capital that has been invested was reduced by 50% because we had less wind. And this shows that renewable sources, renewable energies are not so reliable, and not a single country from the Western Balkan is not moving forward to the Green Deal. But on the other hand, Albania understood that one energy source that will be under control of our own country and will not be left to time, to weather, to God, is very important. We started an ambitious project regarding the natural liquid gas that will come to Durs. This is a regional project. We have two American companies involved in this project. They joined their forces. This also includes Spanish and French companies, and during the cooperation that we had with your Ministry of Economy, and during the cooperation with Krishnik, we came to the understanding that we can cooperate on this project. And besides generation of energy that will be provided by the thermal power plant in Valona, we will also inject the LNG that turns our region into a modern one, because we will use the LNG, and the very fact that we decided to cooperate shows that we are very much engaged. Also in Alexandroupoli in Greece will invest in that project, and that is very important because it shows that now the strategic projects between both governments is a priority. I would like to say a few more words about what Grubis said. Corridor 8 is one of the most significant projects, most vital projects for both countries, but not only for the countries, but also for two other countries from the European Union that expressed their wish to support us, Bulgaria and Italy. And having in mind that these are two EU member states, will help us a lot, because the problem we have today is Corridor 8. It is one of the most important corridors in railway and road infrastructure, and it will connect the Mediterranean with the Black Sea. So these countries can assist us. They can join our network in the European Union so that we can start applying on various funding calls. Both countries understand the need to complete this Corridor 8 as soon as possible, but we are aware that construction costs for the railway and the price for the construction of the highway are quite high and are borne by the budgets of both countries. These are great expenditures, especially after the pandemics and the energy crisis. It will be difficult to complete it in the next 2 or 3 years. So one of the main tasks that we have as governments is to continue with lobbying in the European Union and to include the Corridor 8 into a core network in the EU, and to use the funds from the EU in order to construct these very important railway and road infrastructural projects. Distinguished Artan, I would like to suggest another issue. History shows that creating commissions and groups is very beneficial. We have engaged one of the largest companies Dutch company that works for the Republic of Albania for the last 14 months. And regarding the dry port with the Republic of Kosovo, this is part of the package of the detailed project. And this project involves design of the dry port without any funds. The company showed that they understand the importance of the strategic project for the whole region, and they want to create a feasibility study for the whole region. So for the dry port in Struga, we have detailed project focusing on Porto Romano with 2 ports in Pristina. And I think that we can complete this without any commissions or working groups. Regarding the new border crossing, this is a new border crossing that will be of exceptionally great importance for us. Regarding the port in Durrës, we discussed with North Macedonia. If we're speaking about Tjafasan, the numbers we have today disable us from constructing the highway, except if we use tunnels. this is a very expensive undertaking, so I believe that maybe we should have a joint technical elaboration that will enable us with an opportunity to construct a highway so that we can raise the numbers we have today on Tjalfasan. There is a lot to speak about, but I believe that these technical issues can be resolved, especially regarding the transport on Ohrid Lake. We know all the values, and I do not think that this is the place to mention them. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the additional suggestions regarding the conclusions that we adopted. Now I will allow Mr. Maricic, the Deputy Prime Minister of European Affairs, to speak. Thank you, dear President, distinguished guests, distinguished Prime Minister of Albania. I would like to greet, first of all, the holding of this second interministerial intergovernmental session. This is the second session after our opening of the EU negotiation. And as Mr. Rama usually says in a joke, when the bride EU decides to take the groom Balkan, then we will be ready to start this process. We were waiting for too long, 18 years, but we managed. I used this opportunity to thank the Prime Minister Rama and his team in the support to the North Macedonia and the attempts for decoupling of our two countries. Thank you, Prime Minister Rama, for your patience and for the support for Bulgarian veto to be lifted. We have the joint objective to bring EU home, to build functional institutions in the country and become a full member states of the EU. We work together, and it is a pleasure to see the level of cooperation and closeness between our teams, both on expert and working level. We have together defined the explanatory screenings in 2018, 2019, but also this year. The next year we will do the same. We have received the novelties from the EU legislation. Last week we have started the bilateral screenings. Now we are not together because we're talking about an individual approach of each country, but regardless to this fact, together with the state minister and the main negotiator, my dear colleague Mylinda, we had a very productive meeting in Brussels last week, and we agreed that regardless of the individual type of the process, we need to continue with the cooperation and the close working together that will contribute towards good cooperation and working relations between our two countries. Among the others, we need to have initiative, to start an initiative for negotiating the process between the ministers that are working in our countries on these topics. The memorandum for cooperation and understanding is a tool for institutionalization of our cooperation that is going to assist us towards the EU accession process, and it will help us define the areas where we will build joint positions for the processes that were already mentioned. We started with the energy sector and other processes that are concerning both of us and where the EU member states can expect our assistance and vice versa. The memorandum also enables that through exchange of information, knowledge, expertise, initiatives and cooperation, and introduction of procedures for joint meetings. We are going to make this process easier and more efficient and enable us to become EU member states by the end of this decade. I believe that only together we can reach far, and today's session and the results of today's session are just a proof of this. Thank you. Thank you very much. In the meantime, I will give the floor to the Minister of Finance and Economy. Dear members of the government cabinets of North Macedonia, it is a pleasure to be here today together to discuss the issues, the common issues on the topics that we need to sign agreements or memorandums on. We have worked together on these topics in the last days and weeks in order to expand our economic relations, and through the initiatives that we have undertaken for within the Open Balkan. But today we're going to finalize several agreements that we have initiated through Open Balkans, one of which is the protocols between the ministries of finance and the acknowledgement or recognition signed in March this year between the customs offices. We have not finalized any protocol yet from our behalf. The Albanian party has opened a green line at Chafasan that is going to be for the Open Balkan and the countries that belong here. And by signing this protocol, we're opening the road for all 11 operators authorized from the Republic of North Macedonia. On the other hand, today we're going to sign an initiative, a protocol that is important, that has been adopted by the parliaments of both countries. It is a protocol for recognition of the common border crossings, Chafasan, and at the end of the day, whether the customs offices or the police offices are going to finalize the functioning of these border crossings. This is just a matter of details. We are also going to sign a protocol with regards to the public finances, the memorandum for use of the public finances between the ministries of finances in both our countries. These are very important topics. We need to sit and discuss this together as part of the process for EU accession. This should be with regards to this memorandum, and it relates to providing assistance between the two countries for managing the public finances and improving the process of financial planning for combat against evasion and other topics that are related to the common financial inspections, separate or in cooperation with the EU. So all the elements that are going to lead us towards a better cooperation of our countries and the EU. Thank you so much for the cooperation so far, and I hope that at the next intergovernmental session we're going to be able to finalize some other initial initiatives that we have undertaken between each other, such as the one for easing up the trading or other topics relating the cooperation with the countries from the Open Balkans and our integration into the EU. We need to discuss the opening of the border 24 hours, since we have a joint point, we have this border crossing, which is very important for the trade of both countries, and this will enable both our countries not to have any obstacles with regards to the economic development of our two countries. Thank you so much. Now I call the Minister of Internal Affairs, Spasovski. Thank you, Mr. President, Prime Minister Rama, distinguished members of the government of the governments. I would like to welcome you on my personal behalf and the behalf on the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Republic of Albania have had a very good cooperation, which was on a very high professional, strategic and expert level. The common interest for deepening the cooperation, international cooperation, is expressed among the others through the striving for good inter-neighborly relations and improving the cooperation, especially the border cooperation, implementing the Convention for Cooperation, Interpolice Cooperation on the level of Europe. And within the frames of our today's intergovernmental session, I have proposed 2 acts as a minister, and I'm going to open another topic that we need to discuss and resolve in the next period. First of all, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Ministries of Internal Affairs of both our countries regarding the checkups at the border crossing Chafasan. We had a protocol arising from the Article 16 of the cooperation between our 2 governments for establishing a joint border crossing where both our countries, both parties are obliged to sign a protocol, and this protocol is going to ease up the flow of passengers and shorten the time of waiting at the state borders. Having in mind the state at the moment with the construction works at these border crossings, the Customs Office informed us that they're in a starting phase of reconstruction of this border crossing, and I consider that we will have the opportunity to have better conditions for the citizens of both countries after the reconstruction is done. The second thing, the meeting of our intergovernmental cooperation is forming a teams for cooperation in a direction of combating organized crime. Implementation of this kind of bilateral and international act is going to contribute towards efficient combating the crime through the safety partnership and coordinator activities. Also, with this agreement, we are going to have direct cooperation between the 2 policies or the working teams from the policy of both countries. We are going to we are going to have tactical approach towards the resolving the issues for the criminal acts that are taking part in our countries. And the third topic that I mentioned, and we have once opened with my colleague from Albania, is opening of a 24 open hours border crossing of Trebište, which is especially significant for the citizens in this region, since if we have in mind the problems that they are facing nowadays, then we will be faced with a very unpleasant situation for both ministers from both governments, since we do not need much time or effort to enable these citizens very good and quality life. This is the third thing that I consider we need to discuss and adopt at today's intergovernmental session. We need to open this crossing border to be open for 24 hours. Once again, The today signing of the two agreements and also all the other agreements between the two governments are sending a strong note for good cooperation between our two countries and between the two people. Thank you, Minister of Internal Affairs. The next minister from the ministry, from the government of Albania has the floor. Thank you. Prime Minister Kovacevski, dear colleagues, together with my colleague Spasovski, we have strengthened the cooperation in the last period, not only within the common instruments, the regional initiative Open Balkans or the Berlin process, for example, but also cooperation between the other countries, which is a fruit of the increasement of this cooperation. We have, as a result, the two documents that we have brought to be signed here today, they will be signed here today, and that are related directly to the increasing, intensifying of the bilateral relations and cooperation for combating organized crime and increasing the security and safety in both countries. Another document is also important to discuss. This is the agreement that we signed for joint Chafasan border crossing. The agreement that we're about to sign today is very important since it creates an instrument, legal instrument, that is very important. The relevant agencies will have the commodity with this document to organize their activities for providing the security and safety, especially for combating the organized crime. The agreement for establishing joint task forces is creating an opportunity for the police in both countries to cooperate in an efficient way and to address better, respectively, prevent the organized crime, which is not recognizing any nationality or citizenship, and it is more dangerous than any state institution. This agreement is going to enable, without any need for protocol, to exchange information, to create teams that are going to cooperate and to address specific issues related to the organized crime. The second document, as I already mentioned, and my colleague already mentioned, Spasovski, is coming as a result of the need to put into life or put into force the agreement that we have signed last year for opening a point, one-stop point at the border crossing Chafasan. This is a model that we are successfully implementing with Montenegro and Kosovo. And I believe that this will create completely new reality in our intention to have better and more flow of people and goods between the two countries. This vision was part of the instrument Open Balkan or the Berlin process. As my colleague already mentioned, the infrastructure is going to be ready soon, and I believe that in the near future we are going to be we're going to be able to have this common point, one border crossing, and we are going to have joint cooperation with Kosovo as well, which I believe that in the last year especially has shown that it is contributing towards better cooperation between all the countries, and it eases the flow of people and goods between our countries here. This is very important, but also what is important is the initiative mentioned by my colleague before, relating to the opening of a point that is going to be working 24 hours and is going to be beneficial for the citizens on both sides of the border. We are totally open, fully open to discuss and promote this initiative that was mentioned here today. Thank you. I would like to call the Minister of Culture now, Bisera Stojčevska. Dear colleagues, dear ministers,
I would like to welcome today's joint session that when we're signing shared documents that lead us to development and progress for both countries in the region and that provide us European perspectives. Today we are sending a message for our joint cooperation and friendship, joint vision for European Balkans, based on the regulations that we establish in all areas. I'm especially proud with the fact that with my dear colleague, the Minister of Culture of the Republic of Albania, Ilma Margariti, we're signing the agreement for restoring of the illegally taken icons in the countries of their origin. After 9 years of continuous communication and efforts of both countries regarding the legal regulation and expertise, the teams managed to finalize this procedure, and now this example will be registered as the first case of successful restitution in modern history of our country. I would like to express appreciation to all individuals and institutions, as well as to the Research Center for Cultural Heritage within MANU, that in the recent period have been involved in this exceptionally complex and delicate procedure. The process has now its epilogue, especially due to the compliance with certain conventions for the process of prevention of illegal transport, export, and transfer of cultural goods, a convention that is signed by us and by Albania. These valuable icons are part of the domestic culture from the 19th century. They have historic, cultural, and scientific value. Their restoration at home remains to bear witness of our cooperation and friendship with Albania. With this example, we reinforce the cooperation and mutual understanding. Our relations have been built with decades and are based on cooperation in the culture between the Council of Ministers of Albania and the government of North Macedonia. Both countries trace the European path, and in the spirit of nurturing European values and a respect for the international conventions. And I am sure that the exhibition that we will organize will also show our devotion to protecting the cultural heritage of both countries following the world principles. Thank you. Thank you, Bisera. The Minister of Culture of the Government of Albania will now take the floor. Thank you, distinguished Prime Ministers, colleagues. I will not speak about what my colleague said, but I will say that it is very important that on today's meeting we are enriching our meeting with a symbolical gesture, a gesture that connects even more and tightens our relations. But I think that the symbolism of this meeting is the very fact that Albania and North Macedonia now are on the right path. They show European principles, and what is very important to me, this is the result of a long-term work of both countries. This was a long dialogue between both countries, between experts in various fields, and this agreement is being finalized thanks to numerous institutions from both countries. I would not like to single out some of the institutions because the border police also, for example, played its role, but the Ministry of Culture now, regarding the approximation of our legislation to the European Union's one, in partnerships with the United Nations, in partnership with the USA, is making great step forwards into the restoration of such richness and heritage. There is a shared element in cooperation between the both countries, between the both cultures, and I am glad that we managed to succeed to create a school between the two institutions so that we can learn something more about these artifacts. Albania will continue not only with the monitoring and approximation of the legal regulations and obligations, but we have a great support from the USA regarding this process, and I think that this call on our part was taken positively by the government of North Macedonia, and I think that this is the first act. And many countries have made this before, such as France, and we will always remain aware that we are going forward, that we're moving to the future. There are great challenges lying ahead of us, and we will do as much as we can in that direction. Thank you all for taking this step, because this is not only an agreement, but it is an agreement that is particularly important for both countries. Thank you. Minister, not only on behalf of our government, but also on behalf of our citizens, I would like to thank you for this great work we have done regarding the restoration of the icons in North Macedonia. Last week, I had a meeting with the Archbishop of the Macedonian Church, and he was very happy to hear that one of the important documents that we'll sign is the agreement for restoration of the icons, because not only the Orthodox believer will be able to see them, but all the other believers, all the other representatives from other religions, the tourists, they will all be able to enjoy their beauty and to stand before these icons. Thank you. Thank you very much again. Now I would like to invite the Minister of Information Society and Administration, Admiri Maliti, to take the floor. Thank you. Distinguished Prime Minister Kovachevsky, distinguished Prime Minister Edi Rama, distinguished Deputy Ministers, Deputy Prime Ministers, allow me to welcome the government delegation of the Republic of Albania. They are this session is very important to mark the excellent relations between our two countries. These two countries' fate is connected in our present and in our future. Both countries are facing deep and complex changes. We are facing destabilization factors, various economic, energy crisis, social crisis, and there is a great need for all of us to be together and to face these challenges together. It is important to join our forces in preserving peace and stability. Luckily for us, our governments have a clear path in achieving these objectives, and we are taking this path together. It is clear that the European Union is the place that we should reach. and all in order to secure better life for our citizens. So we are resolute to move on this path, no matter all challenges. This requires engagement and use of all our capacities, and very soon we will be full-fledged members of the European Union. Being Minister of Information Society Administration, today, through the memorandum that we will sign, I would like to express our will for improvement in the areas of our work, to improve the electronic services on the borders, to identify the projects that we can undertake together, exchange of information and experiences, good practices for accomplishing the principles of digitalization and digital economies. And I personally feel very happy that this type of cooperation receives its formality, has its formality, and I would like to congratulate both cabinets for this initiative that enable us to achieve our shared objectives. Thank you. Now I would like to invite the Minister from the Government of Albania to take the floor. I now give the floor to the State Minister of Negotiations with the European Union. Melinda? Thank you, Prime Minister. Distinguished Prime Minister of North Macedonia, distinguished colleagues, allow me to start my address, my statement, with the cooperation between the two sectors, between our two countries, as type of an exceptional example of cooperation. The joint perspective towards the European Union is the main precondition for stability in the region. The commencement of membership negotiations for Albania and North Macedonia in the European Union are a historic moment for both our countries. Our countries promote regional cooperation, and now we will contribute to integration of Western Balkans into the European Union. This in the spirit of friendship and good neighborliness. We're moving in this negotiation process. Both countries, from the beginning of the negotiations, have been committed to deep transformation and are very ambitious regarding the reforms of the political systems in our countries. Our economies will become resilient to the challenges brought before us, and we're making some reforms that are beneficial for our citizens and for our businesses. We want to continue and to deepen the programs for reforms, and at the same time we are ready and we expect a fruitful cooperation with North Macedonia, mostly through exchange of experiences and of all our good practices to accelerate the process of negotiations so that we can support each other. As my colleague Bojan said, today we will sign a memorandum for cooperation on the issue of integration and negotiations of our countries. Once again, supporting the good work will continue not only for the benefit of the good neighborliness, but also for deepening our cooperation within the European Union. This memorandum refers to issues of exchange of experiences in the area of European policy, the policies of common market, as well as certain decisions that will be signed or adopted on our negotiations path, referring the approximation of our legislation to the acquis, as well as the expertise in the basic clusters, such as reforms in judiciary, fight against corruption, organized crime, creating democratic institutions. Also, through this memorandum, we will start the cooperation in order to continue our work for translation of the legislation into Albanian and exchange of translations between our two countries. We will work together on measures that will increase the efficiency of the process of negotiations, and all we want to achieve is more inclusive process of negotiations. We started negotiations with my colleague Bojan on a Balkan format of exchange of experiences between the principal negotiators. We decided together that our countries should promote this Balkan format in other countries on the Western Balkan. I would like to wish you a fruitful work of this joint session, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Melinda. I wish you and Bojan Maricic much success in the negotiations with the EU. And once again, I say, as we joined NATO together, I'm convinced that we will together join the EU. Now I would like to thank all the ministers who participated so far, and I would like to invite the other ministers, should they want to give us a brief statement, minute or two, having in mind that we are limited in time. We need to sign many memoranda, and we have press conference at 2:15, so please raise your hands. Deputy Prime Minister and Good Governance, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Finance, Minister of Economy, and we have the schedule for now.
Thank you, President. Welcome on my behalf. I would like to express my pleasure, since I consider that this is one of the best ways to send the message to all the nationalist and retrograde movements, not only in the region but wider, followed by the irony and sarcasm that were used in the best way by Mr. Rama to show the absurdity of the retrograde policies that were unfortunately promoted by the EU member state. I consider that our citizens expect projection of the future in this way in order to have signing of the protocols for cooperation, and this will enable our countries a future with sustainable ideas, and the citizens will trust that we are acting very professional, very equal, resilient to corruption, and I'm sure that you will agree this is one of the regional problems that we need to face. Therefore, we are organizing as a government the regional anti-corruption conference together with the EU and ODC, where we will discuss the common challenges that we face in the area of corruption and anti-corruption policies, for which, together with the Prime Minister, we have sent invitation to different prime ministers in the region, including Mr. Rama. I hope that the other prime ministers in the region are going to accept this invitation, and this will give us an opportunity to discuss this very important issue in the region. Thank you. Thank you, the Minister of. Thank you. I would like to greet all of you today and greet today's intergovernmental session. I consider that being together in the negotiation process with Albania from the very start is going to be a very good legacy for the future generations. I was accused of taking care more of Albania, starting the negotiation processes, and the Prime Minister Rama was accused of being too sharp in the reactions towards Bulgaria, but we were both concerned with the interests of our countries and our path toward the EU membership, and we are thankful and grateful for the opinions that you had and the positions that you had about Bulgaria. We're here to define the models of Central Europe that we had starting from 2004 as a starting year for the EU membership or negotiations, and we would like to have 2030 as a year in which Macedonia is going to become a full member state of the EU. With regards to the external policy of the foreign policies of our countries, we are aligned with the EU policies. We have in the region 4 countries that are 100% aligned: Kosovo, Montenegro, Albania, and North Macedonia. And we need to use the synergy of all 4 countries that have harmonized the positions in the foreign policy in their countries with the EU. I would like to mention an initiative that is a trilateral, it should be 4-lateral initiative of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, and it should be between the ministers and the prime ministers of Italy, Albania, North Macedonia. We have as an axis Corridor 8, and these countries have the concept of security for strengthening the south wing of NATO. We have started another dialogue this year with the USA. We started this in June, you started in October, and we can use this as a common platform. We're going to sign 2 memorandums. One is for the digitalization of the consular services. In several days, I'm going to start the e-consulate project, and I consider that the upgrading of this project is going to be very good for further communication, since you are very advanced in this respect. And we will have 2 more. We have the presidency, and you had a very successful presidency so far in this aspect. The exchange of experiences is going to be very useful for us. I consider that the Minister of Internal Affairs mentioned Trebište border crossing. This is an important topic. This is an important issue. I have been there. I met the citizens living there. The resolving of this issue is going to improve the living of these citizens. Thank you so much. I give the floor to the Minister Manastirilu. Thank you. Distinguished Prime Minister Kovachevsky, Prime Minister Rama, dear colleagues, we are signing 2 agreements today in the area of partnership, social protection. Together with Minister Sali, we have agreed for further development of our partnership in the area of health. addressing our common challenges through this memorandum that we are going to sign today. We are trying to strengthen our cooperation between the agencies and the pharmaceuticals, the pharmaceutical areas in our sectors in our countries, in order to decrease the bureaucracy procedures in our both two countries. And regarding the challenges that we face with the staffing in the health system and the licensing, we're going to start cooperation for education the staff and exchange of experience, as well as cooperation between the clinical centers in our countries. Also, regarding all the activities that we had so far as an example of good cooperation during the pandemic, I would like to mention that the impact that this cooperation had, and in these times that we live in nowadays, I believe that this cooperation is going to be very important, and the signing of the memorandum is going to be an advancement with regards to what it means to have good health. With Mrs. Trenchevska, we have agreed to sign an agreement for strengthening the cooperation of activities related to the social protection, first of all, of the kids, of the children that are at risk of trafficking, and all the services that are working in this area. The memorandum is going to be improvement of the programs in both countries regarding the fulfillment or meeting the criteria from the international conventions and harmonizing of the EU legislation in this area. Thank you. I give the floor to the Minister of Health. Bekim Sali. Thank you. Prime Minister Kovacevski, Prime Minister Edi Rama, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, dear present here today at this intergovernmental session, allow me to inform you that together with my distinguished colleague, Ms. Manastirlu, at the outskirts of the Forum of Youth and Health Care in Tirana, we have had discussions about cooperation between our two ministers of health, and today we are going to start negotiations, or we are going to sign an agreement for cooperation between the sanitary inspectorates and health inspectorates of our two countries. We hope for good and intense cooperation of our institutions, the legislation, and the correspondent competencies for joint cooperation in segments that are of common interest for both our countries. We are also going to address the possibility to have cooperation between the network of countries in our region, where both our countries are members. At today's meeting, we have an excellent opportunity to sign an agreement between our two ministries in the area of health, taking into consideration the specifics of both health systems, the digitalization in the health system, and new diagnostic procedures and pharmaceuticals. With this agreement, we are going to focus on exchange of information in areas that are of common interest, exchange of information for common pharmaceutical cooperation as well, training of specialists in the health institutions in both countries, direct contacts of the institutions that are interested for the health and other forms of cooperation in the area of health, and successful cooperation. I hope that we will have good cooperation, and I expect everything to be as we are anticipating. The Minister of Finance and then the Minister of Economy. Thank you. Distinguished Prime Ministers, dear colleagues from the governments, I will try to briefly introduce what is a challenge and what is important for this meeting today, and what we as governments have as an agreement to avoid the double taxation. This is something we are attempting since the late 90s. What we had in the commerces of both our countries, I will mention only the construction materials here in this regard. Signing of the agreements is not going to be sufficient, but we also have improvement of the cooperation with regards to the railway, highway, energy infrastructure as well. This is going to be key in achieving our objectives. This is improvement of the bilateral cooperation and third economies inclusion here. I'm talking about the non-EU member states as well, and the EU market as a common market. I am having the honor to sign together with the other ministers, with my colleague, the Minister of Economy, to sign 3 agreements or memorandums, cooperation in the EU integration, and 2 agreements that are protocols actually of the customs offices, customs authorities. The second agreement is regarding the recognition of the licenses for authorized companies in our countries. This is a step forward for some of the next governments. They will have further documents in this aspect. We have the common cross-border cooperation, and we need to increase the economic capacities of our countries, improve the state from the past. We have had 2.5% increase. We need to improve this to 5%. I would like to thank you for the possibility for improving the cooperation. Thank you.
Distinguished Prime Minister Rama, distinguished colleagues of the government of Albania, it is a great pleasure for having this opportunity to speak today about deepening our cooperation, although I think that so far we have had fruitful cooperation, especially in the energy sector, but also regarding entrepreneurship. And we will have the opportunity to sign 2 agreements regarding exchange of experiences of startup companies, mostly of small and medium enterprises, especially since we have some challenges that we have been facing in both countries, especially in the energy sector. I would like to extend my appreciation to my colleague Baluku for the excellent cooperation we've had in this difficult period, both for us as ministries, but also for our countries. And I sincerely hope that we will continue in that spirit, in that direction, that we will face this crisis together. North Macedonia and Albania are considered to have a lot of space for cooperation in the energy sector, mostly with projects that started to be undertaken in the Republic of Albania, where North Macedonia is planning to be part of them. One of them is the AFS in Valona, where we as a country will diversify our energy sources and this will give us an opportunity once and for all for North Macedonia to stop being dependable on one energy sources. In our case, we are speaking for natural gas from Republic of Bulgaria, taking into consideration that the capacities are almost all reserved by 2030 from Russia. And this will be a great step forward that will certainly be expanded in other countries in the region. We have been working on expansion of the projects regarding transmission lines that will give additional opportunity for the energy sectors in both North Macedonia and Albania to be integrated, and why not to have joint cooperation in this area with all our colleagues, Mirela, Belinda. I would like to thank you for the cooperation we've established so far. North Macedonia will always be part of the joint projects with Republic of Albania, no matter whether these refer to the territory on the Republic of Albania or maybe on our territory, with the single objective for our countries to have better, improved energy sector, but also to improve all other areas in order to alleviate the trade between our countries. I'm sorry to say that agricultural produce are facing export and import issues, especially in terms of the certificates. Maybe we should have shared laboratories. And of course, the relevant ministries should work on this issue, should resolve this problem as soon as possible, and in that way we will increase the exchange. We will face the inflation, the crisis in food sector, and we'll manage in resolving these issues as soon as possible. Thank you, Kreshnik. Now I would like to give the floor to Madam Trinchevska and the Minister on Education, Shakiri. Thank you, President, distinguished President of the Government of North Macedonia, distinguished President of the Government of Republic of Albania, distinguished colleagues, ministers in the Government of Albania, distinguished colleagues, Deputy Prime Ministers in the Government of North Macedonia. In my capacity of Minister of Labor and Social Policy, it is my great pleasure that today, with the Minister of Health and Social Protection, Girta Manastirli, we will sign the Memorandum of Cooperation resulting from the interest and the readiness for starting the cooperation in the area of social protection and, of course, protection of children between the two ministries. By signing this memorandum, we will intensify the cooperation between the two ministries, and we will enable exchange of experiences in the area of social protection and exchange of experiences in child protective services. I would like to underline sharing experiences in the policies for protection of people with disability, assessment of disabilities, rehabilitation services for people with disability, care for the elderly, institutional and beyond institutional protection, as well as prevention of violence against women and children, including the system of programs for social assistance and protection of the rights of children. I would like to use this opportunity to remind you that within the frames of the Open Balkan Initiative, last year we signed Memorandum of Understanding for cooperation regarding free access to the labor market, an agreement for the conditions for free access to labor market in Western Balkan, as well as protocol for assessing the procedure for free access to the labor market in the countries that signed this protocol. Today's signing of the Memorandum of Cooperation, together with the previously established cooperation, is in fact the true proof for the countries that are devoted towards building European standards and values at home in their own country and for its own citizens. Thank you very much. Thank you, Minister. And the last speaker for today, the Minister of Education. Thank you. Thank you, President. Distinguished Prime Minister Rama, distinguished ministers of Albania, allow me in the very beginning to congratulate the Minister of Education for the Congress that was organized in Tirana. We, as Minister and professors from North Macedonia, had the opportunity to participate at this Congress, and we all saw that university education is a joint challenge for both countries. Another important element that I would like to underline, we propose with the program of cooperation in the area of education and scientific research, a program resulting from what was said at the Education Congress. This leads us to increasing our cooperation, especially since we have the opportunity to exchange the pedagogical views and approaches in primary and secondary schools, but also at universities. As a country, we had the process of approval and now the procedures are being completed. All those agreements and protocols that have been signed so far are being conducted, such as and they're being implemented, especially regarding the Albanian language here. The processes of proofreading and editing of documents in national institutions. Thank you again. I would like to congratulate and wish you a great stay in Skopje. Before completing this session, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Rama. Thank you. Thank you very much. It is truly a great pleasure to cooperate with so much faith, with such positivity, with such love, to go ahead, to go forward with shared projects, with joint work. I would like to remind all of us that despite all aspects, emotional aspects, that connect Albania and North Macedonia and vice versa, and as a result of the Albanians in North Macedonia, this is a very significant moment for both countries, for both governments, because in the very end, we are speaking of joint strategic and individual interest of both countries. And this interest is expanding their economic space, expanding their capacities for the benefit of everyone, as well as expanding the horizons regarding the future of all citizens and people who live and who are directly connected to our countries. Although maybe at this moment they do not reside in our countries, Anyhow, in the very end, I wanted to express my satisfaction because I believe that in these past years we had a great change in, and of course great change also affected our relations. These have always been good relations, maybe not excellent but good, and now we have excellent relations as a result of the democratic consolidation of North Macedonia and as a result of the transformation of the awareness for cohabitation. This is truly the best path for joint future. And this is translated into concrete cooperation, connectivity through our two governments. So I truly want to convey my respect for the prime ministers, for the colleagues seated at this table, for the colleagues Macedonians in the assembly. I would like to express my respect for everyone who gives life to the spirit of future. I'm convinced that we have great opportunities to do more. On the other hand, we must not forget that what we have done so far together is a lot. It is more than a half of the work done. We laid the foundations, and we're building year by year, decade by decade, a strong, safe future as children and people in Albania and North Macedonia deserve. Thank you again, Prime Minister, for this great friendship, for this great brotherhood, and I would like to publicly express my respect for your commitment for preservation and enhancement of these foundations for the future. Thank you.
Благодарам, Еди. Јас на крај
Thank you, Edi. In the very end, I would like to say that this has been a session that was expected by all of us, and those who were not part of its preparation believe that it is a difficult work. This morning, when I came at work, I came very calm because I knew that our teams, both in the government of Albania and the government of North Macedonia, have done everything right until today to this session. And that is why this session was very easy to be broadcasted to all viewers in our country and in Albania, but also throughout the region. The only way to continue forward and to have better future for our new generations is to make the Balkan region a region of cooperation, to make it a region of building economic relations, educational relations, cultural relations, building new and fast infrastructure that will connect us to the rest of Europe. With this session and with everything that we have done so far, together with Prime Minister Rama, together with all ministers in Albania and North Macedonia, we are confirming this, and I'm sure that one of the greatest help I have received in my most difficult period, and that was in the moments when we were negotiating with Bulgaria and France and Germany for the commencement of negotiations for North Macedonia and negotiations of Albania with the EU. Edi Rama was always by my side. I said in the very beginning, and I will reiterate this, this appreciation and this friendship will be everlasting. I will never forget that support. Another thing, Edi Rama and I will leave the next generations friendship, best possible relations between our countries so that they can live and flourish in prosperity, in progress, so that they can build their future into EU member states. But here on the territory of Albania and North Macedonia, and not in European countries, abroad, in countries that are 1,000 miles from our two countries. And that is why I would like to urge everyone here today, those who will come after us, to nurture this heritage, to further develop it. Thank you. After this exceptionally productive session, we have already adopted 3 conclusions, and now we will sign 21 documents between Albania and North Macedonia. Thank you for your presence at the session, and now I close this session. Thank you. Thank you. Before continuing with the memoranda, I would like to wait for the media to join us here in the ceremonial hall.
Почитувани, продолжуваме со церемонијата на потпишување на договорите и меморандумите.
Distinguished, we are going to continue with the ceremony of signing the agreements between the governments of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Republic of Albania. I hereby invite the Deputy Prime Minister for European Affairs of the Republic of North Macedonia and the State Minister and main negotiator of the Republic of Albania, Majlinda Duka, to sign the agreement, the memorandum for cooperation in the area of European affairs.
Ви благодарам.
Thank you. I hereby invite the Minister of Internal Affairs, of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Macedonia, Minister Bujar Osmani, and the Minister from the Republic of Albania, Olga Jachka, to sign the Memorandum of Understanding for cooperation in the area of diplomatic training.
Благодарам.
Thank you. Both ministers are going to also sign the memorandum for cooperation in the area of digitalization of the consular services.
Ви благодарам.
Thank you. I hereby invite the Minister of Defense of the Republic of North Macedonia, Slavianka Petrovska, and the Minister of Defense of the Republic of Albania, Niko Peleshi. Both ministries are going to sign a memorandum for cooperation in the area of defense.
Има го. Ги покажа.
I hereby invite the Ministers of Internal Affairs of the Republic of North Macedonia and Republic of Albania, Mr. Oliver Spasovski and Mr. Bledar Čuči, to sign the memorandum of cooperation for joint activities and cooperation in the area of internal affairs.
Двајцата министри ќе го подпишат.
Ministers are going to sign the protocol between the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Republic of Albania for implementation of joint border checkups at the border crossing Chafasan and Chafane. Thank you. I invite the Ministers of Finance, Mr. Fatmir Besimi and Mrs. Delina Ibrahimai, to sign the memorandum for understanding and cooperation in the area of public finances, accession process to the EU between the two ministries.
Следува
Next is the signing of the protocol between the Ministry of Finances and the Customs Office of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Ministry of Economy, General Directorate of the Customs Office of the Republic of Albania, for the mutual acknowledgement of the operators and authorization of the ministers between the governments of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Republic of Albania.
Ти. Двајцата
Both ministers are also going to sign the implementation protocol between the Ministry of Finance and Customs Office of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Ministry of Finance and Economy, General Directorate of Economy of the Republic of Albania, for implementation and establishment of joint border crossings between the two countries. This was signed in Tirana on the 10th of June, and this refers to the border crossing Chafasan-Chaftana.
Ви благодарам.
Thank you. I hereby invite the Minister of Economy of the Republic of North Macedonia, Krešnik Bekteshi, and the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Energy and Infrastructure, Melinda Baluku, to sign the memorandum of cooperation in the energy sector between the Ministries of Economy of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Republic of Albania.
Двајцата министри
Both ministers are going to also sign the memorandum of cooperation, the memorandum for protection of companies.
меморандумот ќе го
The memorandum is going to be signed by the Minister of Economy, Krešnik Bekteshi, and Mrs. Edona Bilali, Minister for Protection of the Entrepreneurship of the Republic of Albania.
Ви благодарам.
Thank you. Minister of Health of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Bekim Sali, and the Minister of Health and Social Protection of the Republic of Albania, Ms. Gerta Manasterliu, are going to sign the Memorandum for Cooperation in the health area, cooperation between the ministries of both countries.
Ви благодарам.
Thank you. I hereby invite the Minister of Labor and Social Policy of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mrs. Jovanka Trenčevska, to join Mrs. Manasterliu in order to sign the Memorandum for Cooperation in the area of social policy and protection of children between the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Ministry for Health and Social Protection of the Republic of Albania. Pardon.
Ви благодарам.
Thank you. Next is the signing of Memorandum for Cooperation between the Ministry of Education and Science of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Ministry of Sport of the Republic of Albania regarding the proofreading in Albanian language. This is going to be signed by the Minister. Jeton Shachiri and Minister Kushi.
Двајцата министри
Both ministers are also going to sign the Memorandum for Cooperation for implementation of the sign language.
следува подпишувањето и на програм.
Next is the signing for the program of the Ministry of Education and Science of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Ministry of Education and Sport of the Republic of Albania for the period of 2023 to 2026 in the area of education and science.
Ви благодарам.
Thank you. I hereby invite the Ministers of Culture of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mrs. Bisera Kostadinovska-Stojčevska, and of Republic of Albania, Elva Margariti, to sign the agreement for returning of the illegally exported icons to the country of origin. As a symbolic gesture, one of the icons that were returned to the Republic of North Macedonia.
Јас би сакал
I would like to say a couple of words. This is a really big gesture by the Ministry of Culture of both countries and all the institutions that were working on this. And really, this year is a big year, an important year for our citizens, especially for the Macedonians, because at the beginning of this year we have been acknowledged the Macedonian Orthodox Church was entered the family of the other Orthodox churches. Then we have started the negotiations with the EU. Then we signed the agreement with Frontex, where the Macedonian language was for the first time together with all the 27 member state countries and languages. We have signed this agreement without any additions or explanations in our Macedonian language. This is something that we have worked on all the past years. In all the past years, 21 icons that belong to the Macedonian Orthodox heritage, thanks to our friend Edi Rama and his colleagues, working together with our institutions. These icons are returned to our country, and all our believers can pray on to them, in front of them, and say their wishes, not only our citizens, but everyone else. Thank you for this. Thank you. I hereby invite the Minister of Transport and Communications of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Blagoj Bočvarski, and the Deputy Minister of Deputy Prime Minister of the Government of the Republic of Albania and Minister of Infrastructure and Energetics of the Republic of Albania to sign the Memorandum of Cooperation. The ministers are also going to sign the agreement between the Republic of North Macedonia and the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Albania for international water transport at the Ohrid Lake.
Minister
Bočvarski and Minister Baluko are going to sign memorandum of understanding and cooperation between the two countries for cooperation for infrastructure connection, road infrastructure connection. I hereby invite the Minister of Information Society and Administration, Admirit Aliti, and Mrs. Belinda Baluku to sign the Memorandum of Cooperation between the Ministry of Information Society and Administration and the Ministry of Infrastructure and Energetics to sign the Memorandum for Cooperation in the area of energy and infrastructure.
Ви благодарам.
Thank you. Distinguished, we hereby close the ceremony of signing the memorandums for cooperation between the two governments. We will continue with the press conferences from both prime ministers, and I would like to ask the media to continue towards the media center. Thank you.